So my aunt didn't tell us we're coming back to England. She gave us I felt like it was a really short time. But what I remembered was a few months before they took us to Kingston. And that was the first time. I think we probably came to Kingston when we came, because I was small, I couldn't remember. But so they took us to Kingston and we had to sort out the passports. So we knew something was thinking, why do we need passports? But they wouldn't tell us. They said, oh, a big people business. What do you want to know for? But I was thinking, we had to go to Kingston to get the passports sorted out. And before, I think it was like 2 weeks before we knew, but they were saying, don't tell nobody, don't tell anyone, not even your friends, don't tell anybody that you're coming, because people can get jealous. They said people can get jealous. And so I just think they wanted to keep it quiet, because we came and we didn't advertise that we were coming. So when you're leaving, you don't need to tell people that you're leaving. So that was what happened. And I just think it's just the way my aunt, she was really quiet and private. So she didn't think, because she used to tell us, don't eat from people, don't, just be careful with yourself and don't trust other people. Can be, I don't know, sometimes people, it's not what they present themselves to be. So you just need to be safe. So, so they didn't tell us until, let me think, 2 weeks before we were supposed to come. And I think my brother didn't even, I think he knew like a few days before, because they said, oh, I don't think he'll want to go back to England. He'll probably run off. Don't tell him. So it was like a shock for him to come back. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they told my older sisters, but I knew probably 2 weeks before we came back. And when I remember thinking, I don't even know, I'd rather stay, because I felt like my aunt was like my mum, even though we knew that she wasn't my mum. I had no image of my mum because we didn't have any pictures of my mum. There was an incident where the house got burnt down, and so everything, pictures of when we were little, and we were at church one day when the house burnt down. Somebody came to the church and they shouted to my aunt's husband, your house is on fire, your house is on fire. So we ran up the hill. It took us a while to get there. And then I think it was probably about, I don't know, guessing about 15 minutes away from the church. I can't even remember, but I knew it was up a slope. So when we got there, it was just like everything was gone. And it was a beautiful wooden house, but because it was wood, made from wood, like one of those Caribbean homes made from wood. I remember we used to shine the floor with like coconut husk, and it used to be so shiny. It was crazy. Anyway, so the house got burnt down, and it was really sad, because then we had nowhere to go, but people rallied in the community, and I stayed in one of the neighbours' one of the neighbours' house, and the different people took us in. But so it was a while before they rebuilt the house, and this time it was like from concrete. So, yeah, it was difficult. But so when we were coming back, I just thought, we're coming back to a stranger, because I didn't have any image of what my mom looks like, and I couldn't remember her face. But my aunt was saying, oh, you must remember it's your mother and you should be kind to her, and all these things. And because she knew we didn't want to, she knew that it's going back to a stranger. She understood the situation, but we had to come back. And so, yeah. So when we came, I remember we got we got the flight from Kingston, and I was 13. I was holding the passports, and I was thinking my sister would be holding the passport, but I was holding the passport, and I felt really big. And I was only 13 a month before. So and then when we got here, we landed at Heathrow, and this was in the April. We landed at Heathrow, and then the air hostesses, they were really nice, and they looked after us because my sister was 15, I was 13, and my brother was 12. So and then we got another flight, and I thought, oh my God, they're going to send us to somewhere else in Europe. We're supposed to be, why we landed at Heathrow and we're going somewhere else. But what happened was, my mum, she paid for another flight. So there were two flights from Kingston to Heathrow and from Heathrow to Birmingham. But we weren't even aware of that. So we met my mum at the airport in Birmingham. I don't know what it's called. And yeah, and so when I met her, she said, "Oh, come and give me a hug." And I was looking at her, and I was thinking, she looked like it was like a stranger, and I was thinking, I want my aunt. That's what I was thinking. But and I felt bad thinking that, but I was missing my aunt, and we're coming to a stranger, but I knew she was my mum. And I think I knew she was my mum because she looked similar to me. So this must be the right person. It must be the right woman. It's not somebody else collecting. But when you're young, you just think, is this the right person? We have no pictures. We don't know. There was no introduction. Like, this is your mum. She's just like, I think she had a thing holding up, and they said, "Oh, go over there. I think that's your mum." So it was a bit weird. So yeah, but we knew she was because she started talking about my grandmother who had died, and she didn't know. She didn't know for a long time because my aunt didn't tell her. There's some things like she didn't tell her because she felt that she had a hard. My mum had a hard life, and she couldn't handle like being told that her mum had died. So all this kind of stuff was a bit difficult. Anyway, so yeah, we knew that we had the right person as our mother, and yeah, the connection grew, and the love grew, and yeah, I feel that I have the best mum in the world. So because she had a difficult life, and she struggled all of her life. Yeah, she struggled. She came from a family of 10 kids, and she was second to last. She's technically the last because her baby sister died when she was little. My mum said, I don't remember her, but she's like a walking baby. She said that means the baby was a toddler when her younger sister died. And my mum's father died when she was young, and she had to leave school. So that's why she came to England, because being the youngest, so she's being classed as the youngest because the other sister didn't live for very long, the youngest one. But she came to England because she had to leave school early. So everybody learned to skill, and she said, oh, I didn't have a trade. So having a trade, you would like, some were carpenters, dressmakers. Everybody had something that they could make a living from, and she didn't have that. So she decided to come to England to try to help herself, really. And then she had all those difficulties, which, yeah, it was difficult for her, but yeah. I think she was successful but I just wish she didn't have such a hard life. Yeah. My mum had many talents. So she was good at singing, at running, and she loved drawing. So my sister had the singing gene, my son's got the running gene, and I've got the creative art gene. So I did inherit something from my mother in terms of part of her creativity and her interests. So yeah, I'm really proud of that. Being left behind in Jamaica has shaped my view of life and it's had an impact in the way I live my life. So I think for one, we lived in the countryside, and I wouldn't have experienced knowing what living in the countryside, living with nature would be all about. We had different animals like goats and sheep. We had dogs and cats, and just like we even had a donkey. And it was just like living living the life that you would think people live in England, where in the countryside, they coming from an inner city, you wouldn't be living in England. I wouldn't have experienced living like that in England. So, and I really, at the time, I didn't appreciate it at the time, because I felt I was more fixed on I should be living with my parents in England. So as a young person, you're not thinking it's an opportunity. You didn't see it as an opportunity. It was only when I would say, even in my 20s and 30s, then I started to realize, oh, this had been a good thing for me, in terms of the opportunities it gave me and how it shaped my life. Because I really love nature, but I shouldn't say but, I really love nature. And the only time I experience nature, like now living in London, is like when you go to like I go to the local parks and so on, and I love doing that. But to get out into the wide open space, if you go to one of the big parks, like when I was in Warsaw, you go to the Arboretum. Oh, that was a memory I had of the lights when I was younger. Or in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is like, to have a park like that in a major city is something wonderful. And so nature is one of the things that I gained from living. Love of nature is one of the things that I gained from living in Jamaica. A sense of community, helping out, because I do volunteering wherever I can. And I think it helped to shape the way I get involved with stuff, in supporting other people, and also because of the support that I receive. And I value it because I saw the impact that it had when I was younger, and still does have in my personal life. Education is a massive thing that shaped me in Jamaica. So when I came to England, I remember I used to be quite studious, and people used to laugh and say, "Oh, Keno, you're too keen to do your work, you're too keen." People used to mess about, and I was thinking, why are these people, why are they so dumb? Why are they messing about in the class? And it was difficult for I went to a comprehensive school, and it was difficult sometimes for the teacher to keep the class in check. And I was just, this would not happen in Jamaica. But then again, we had the old kind of Victorian system, and they had this ruler, and the teacher would, if people step out of line, they don't do that now, but I don't know when they abolished that, but if people step out of line, there was the fear of God. So you think, no, I don't want to get beaten by the teacher. So the teacher were free to beat the children, but it wasn't just about that. Education was very important, and we had the 11+ exams, and my siblings, my two older sisters, they went to private school. I remember I took the exam and I just didn't understand anything. So I didn't get to go to private school. I went to like a high school, like a comprehensive school, but it was equally important because the competition was to come. But if you don't come first, second, or third, it's like you're not quite there academically. So that was the thing. So education was really valued. I know sometimes people think they can think badly about other countries that are not in the European system, but I think people are quite studious in Jamaica. It's just that the opportunities are not there. If you don't know somebody sometimes, or sometimes if you get a gifted child and they don't have the money to go to high school, then that's where the difficulty lies. So I was quite fortunate that I came back at the age of 13, and yeah, and just so when I got back to England, that was the thing that kept me in good stead to stay on the education. And then and so after I went to the sixth form, and it was important for me to stay in education. My mum was saying, "Oh, Jennifer, you must make sure you stay with your education. You must make sure." And I always say to her, "Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna do what I need to do." And kids used to laugh at me, and I remember back then there used to be a lot of teenage pregnancy, and I was just thinking, I don't want to get caught up in that. I'm just gonna stay on my education. So kids used to laugh, some of the teenagers in the area, because there was nothing much to do in the Midlands where I used to live. And so yeah, and then that's when, after sixth form, I decided, okay, I'm going to apply and do art. So that's where I got from my mum a love of drawing, flowers, and I just like expanded on that and did art at Walsall Art College. And then, yes, and then but even then it was difficult, Walsall Art College, because we did 2 years and then I didn't get in anywhere. And I thought, I'm definitely going to get in if I carry on working. And I remember a group of us did part-time, and we worked really hard. And I remember the teacher said to us, I can't remember which course she did, but I felt like it was sewing or something like that. I think we did textiles with her. And she took some of us aside and she said to us, "Oh, you need to, for you guys to be successful, you Caribbean children, you need to look at the places where, if they already have black students in the education system, because you guys are good and we don't want you to keep just applying and you're not getting anywhere." So yeah, I got in at Derby, and yeah, it was like a good time. I got into Derby to do the HND, and then after Derby, I went to Winchester to do my degree, and my mum was so excited. And she used to, at that time, my mum was near retirement age. She was still working, but not the full hours. And so my mum, she used to send me little £5 notes in the envelopes. And she used to just say, "Oh, keep going." Yeah. She used to say, "Keep going, and I'm really proud of you." And it was so nice.